It's been so long, I have no idea how to start this. Welcome back to my channel. Wow. Before we get started, because this is a book review and I'm definitely gonna get to that, but I just wanted to address my absence. Starting in June 2017, my mental health kind of went in a steady decline and I was putting way too much on my own plate and I couldn't deal. So I stopped with the videos. I had like a whole month of October planned of like spooky related books I was going to read and review, and then I just basically kept having panic attack after panic attack. So basically I've just been away working on my mental health. It is definitely far from perfect, but I am taking steps to making that better, and hopefully in the next few months I will feel and see some real life changes here, because I'm making some big life changes in order to feel better. One of the things that I definitely want to follow through with is this channel, because I love books, I love talking about them. I love that somehow I ended up getting like 30-40 subscribers without ever posting anything in the last 3 months. I don't know why, but hi, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for subscribing, and thank you to those who have been commenting on my videos that I've been getting back to super late. It's all mental health related. It's not an excuse, but there's my explanation. I'm not just ignoring people because I hate people. Thank you so much to those who have been supportive in the comments of my YouTube channels or on my Instagram of me taking care of me before I start doing this. I know I said this in the past, so take my words with a grain of salt, but I do plan on posting once a week at least for the rest of 2018. So without further ado, let's get into the book review. I read P.S. from Paris as my first read of 2018. I got it as one of the Kindle first reads for I think November or October, one of those months. I'm not sponsored, so just putting that out there right now, but for those of you who don't know, there is a feature on Kindle or through the Kindle app called Kindle First. I forget if it's an additional subscription, but I'm pretty sure if you have a Kindle account or if you have an Amazon Prime account, that you just get this as a part of the deal. It's a feature called Kindle First, and basically it releases 5 to 6 new titles every month, books that either are coming out or have just come out that they really want people to read and review, and they're free. They're completely free to download onto your Kindle or e-reader or whatever it is that you use. I live literally right next to an airport. You're gonna hear a lot of airplanes. This is the first of the Kindle First reads that I've read. So I have a lot of books from Kindle First that are just kind of in my Kindle that I just haven't read yet. I figured it was time to actually read one of those and review it, because that's kind of the point, is they really want people to download them and read them pretty much immediately or as soon as possible and give it a review, because then they can use your review and your feelings about the book to sell the book. I'm gonna do a quick synopsis for those who don't know what it's about, because it's pretty new, so, or at least in the US. The US version is pretty new. It's actually originally written in French and it is translated to English, so I have the English edition because I don't speak French. So as far as I can tell, not a lot of people have heard about this book. I did my best to get like a Parisian look. When I looked up online like what Parisian makeup and fashion was like, I saw a lot of red lipstick, clean eyes, so like not a whole lot of makeup on the eyes, and then stripes, just all the stripes. So I just went with this cute little stripey shirt that I got when I was like, I purchased it in the middle of the night when I was half asleep, I guess, because I don't really remember buying it, but it came and I was like, hey, that's cute, so I kept it. So that's how my book look relates to the actual book itself. I don't know if I've achieved the Parisian look, but this is my best effort. Basically, we follow an American writer who used to live in San Francisco who moved to Paris to just be a writer after his first novel just kind of blew up, and he had not anticipated the writer's life, and so once it was upon him, he decided to just move to Paris and live there. So he lives in Paris and he meets this woman who goes by Mia, and they have this non-romantic sort of forced platonic relationship because they're both just lonely and they're both in need of a friend specifically first before they need a relationship. But once they meet, they're both kind of like, hey, I really just need a friend, is that okay? And they're both like, yeah, that's fine. They kind of have escapades as they're dealing with their own drama of their own lives. The writer's dealing with the fact that he has had major success with his novel, specifically in Korea, like way more than any other country out of all of them. And he is also dealing with being in love with his Korean translator, the person who was hired to translate his book into Korean. So while this is kind of designated as a romance novel, there isn't a whole lot of mushy-gushy romance going on for most of the book. Most of the book is just interpersonal relationships and dealing with the concept of loneliness and dealing with the concept of identity and dealing with the concepts of friendship and where's the line between friendship and relationship. But there are definitely romance aspects. There's definitely betrayal, adultery. There's all the fun stuff that you also get in a romance novel. Pause. Airplane. I'm not kidding, guys. The airplanes fly right over my building. Like, if my head was my building, the airplane goes like this. So it's kind of what it's about without giving away too much. This isn't a spoiler because right off, we basically start the story with this, is that Mia is actually a famous movie star, and she has altered her physical appearance so much that when she goes to Paris to get away from her fame and the drama of her life, she isn't recognizable by anybody. So even the writer that she befriends doesn't actually know who she is and just thinks she's a normal person who is a co-owner of a restaurant. And so we're dealing with that aspect of the story as well. So my spoiler-free review is that I overall really liked it. I was really surprised. For some reason, I was very reluctant to like it. I'll admit that, and I have no idea why. It might just because it fell under the romance genre of things. And I'm not a huge romance reader because I'm not huge into the smut of that genre. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I think that it's awesome. There are certain aspects of the smut in some books that I love. So it's just as becoming an adult and having more experiences and more sexual experiences, the more that I read the smut, the more I realize a lot of it is just super unrealistic and it just kind of seems super fake and idealistic, which is fine because that's kind of the point of fiction. But yeah, so I'm getting off topic here, but just throwing it out there that that's kind of why I stay away from the romance genre of things. But I don't hate romance, and I have read some romance novels just purely out of needing a romance novel to read, like wanting to read about love and people falling in love and things like that. Yeah, in general, I was surprised how much I did like it. I was on the borderline of not being able to put it down. It's not that I like sped through it, and it's not something that I was excited to get home and read, but once I started reading it, the momentum was really easy to get, and so I would just power through it because it was, yeah. I also think it's a short book. I honestly don't know what the physical copy looks like because I read it on my Kindle, but it seemed pretty short. It went by really fast, so I'm assuming it's pretty short. Right off the bat, the characters are pretty likable, so I really appreciated that because part of my problem with romance novels is idealized people. People who are just perfect and came at the right time and all that, you know, like, I'm not into that so much, so the fact that Mia was kind of dislikable made her likable to me because she was very human. Her best friend Daisy, also super human and very true to the I'm just trying to make my dream work and I don't have time for anything else but business. I loved the relationship between the writer Paul and his best friends Arthur and Lauren, I believe. I loved his relationship with the people of Paris, so like he was friends with a butcher and with a restaurant owner and things like that, so it kind of just highlights the relationships he's made living in Paris as a single man with basically no friends. I love the relationships in the story because they're very honest and true to real life relationships. The stresses between the relationships, the betrayals between the relationships, the bonds between the relationships are all very just honest and true. The writing itself is fine. There was nothing distressing about it, so it wasn't horrible. There's nothing particularly impressive about it either. The writing was really nothing special. I don't know if it was any better in French. The story itself actually impressed me because I thought we were leading up to something pretty predictable, and I did predict what was gonna happen way before they actually revealed what was happening, but I feel like it was kind of built to be like that. I feel like it was kind of written for you to be able to guess what was gonna happen, or what the kind of big twist was gonna be before the twist was revealed to the characters themselves. So in that respect, I think that it worked really well. The twist is super cool. It's something I never really thought about before. It's really true what's happening to today's current political climate, and I appreciate that. It's cool because it's relevant. The big twist is like a combination of like kind of a heart-wrenching backstab, but also really uplifting and beautiful. So, which is a really unique combination for a twist to have. Usually it's just shocking or it's horrifying. Like, the big twist in a book is not usually that very unique combination of, you know, backstabbing and uplifting. So if that doesn't make you want to read it, I don't know what will. I honestly think this book is worth a read to anybody based off of that twist at the end, just because it kind of brought it back from being 100% a romance novel and made it a little bit more wholesome. I need to drink my coffee before it gets cold. Too late, it's already pretty cold, but oh well. And when we finally got down to the romance part of the book, I thought that was really well written. It was lovely. It really was. It was tasteful and romantic and sweet and cute. And if you are an adult fiction reader, I feel like you would love this book. If you love books about human connection, because the author Marc Levy explores pretty much every type of human connection, from marriage to best friends to a person's relationship with fame, or a person's relationship with loneliness, or a person's relationship with their business. And I loved reading about that, because as a 27-year-old, I'm surrounded by people who are either just starting or in the thick of their careers, and a lot of the themes that the author explores are things that I hear about from my friends on a daily basis now. So it just seemed very real to me as a theme for the book. So I really enjoyed that aspect. I think this is an excellent winter read. It doesn't really take place in any specific season, I don't think. I think that it rains quite a bit in the novel itself, but it is in Europe, so that makes sense. So it was kind of a perfect read for the weather that we've been having in the Bay Area, which is really rainy, overcast, and cloudy, and cold, as one would expect for winter. It's definitely a wimpy winter, as it always is in California, but for Californians like me, it's winter. But it was a great read for when it was raining. It's a great read with some tea and maybe a nice scented candle. We still have leftover like holiday scented candles, so it's a great holiday read as well. I know we're past that, but if next year you need a gift idea for the holidays for your book lover, it doesn't take place in the holidays either, but it's just got that uplifting feeling. It's a great read if you like strong female characters, because though she's not directly portrayed as one in the beginning, Mia, the main character, she is, well, I guess her name's not really Mia, but I'm gonna call her Mia. You see her become selfless, and, well, actually, it's not even that she becomes selfless, it's that she is inherently selfless, but she lives in an industry where she's expected to be selfish, so she acts like that a lot of the time, which I think is more of a front for her very compassionate, bleeding heart. I think that's all I have for the spoiler-free portion of the review. So we'll get into the spoiler section now. So if you haven't read it, please go read it, come back and start from here, and we'll discuss the book and we'll gab about it in the comments. So for starters, for the spoiler portion of this book review, I did not start off liking Mia, and I don't know that we're supposed to. She seemed overdramatic, and she seemed very melodramatic, I guess, and she just, she did not appeal to me as a character. But that's fine, because very quickly she kind of won me over with her relationship with Daisy, how easily she just went into everyday life, how she was not above or beyond helping Daisy in the restaurant, which I appreciated about her character. In fact, she just found a lot of kind of solace in it, I think, is just being a normal person. Even though she only really has waitressing experience from a role she played, she just jumped right in there and was like, I could be a waitress, why not? I like that she just talks to people on the street like the caricature artist. I loved Arthur and Paul's relationship. I'm currently going through a phase in my life where I feel like me and my friends are just growing apart. Not because we're bad people, not because we don't love each other, but just because we're very different people and we have different needs now than we did when we met. And so the Arthur clinging to his friendship with Paul and trying to do everything in his power to make sure that their friendship can still be what it has been for both of them was so endearing to me. I don't know. I never really got to the point with my friends where I was like, let me make them a fake account on a dating website so that way they'll stay in the area. No, I I feel like I would instantly lose my friends. They would just drop me if I ever did that to them, because I would totally drop somebody for doing that to me. So the fact that Paul is easygoing enough to just kind of forgive Arthur for doing that, or I guess technically it was Lauren, but Arthur went with it because ultimately it was going to meet his goal of keeping Paul in Paris. I loved that whole aspect of this story, that though we are exploring romantic relationship, because that is a very big part of human life and existence, so is friendship. And I loved the friendship between Arthur and Lauren, his wife. I like that we have almost every aspect of relationship in this story. Almost, not quite, because we don't have like a well, I guess we sort of do have a parent-to-child relationship, because Paul often talks about being Arthur's child's godfather and what that means to him. There are no actual children in the book, so we don't see that as prominently. But we see deep friendship, we see relationships, budding relationships, older relationships, failed marriages, successful marriages. We see friendship between people who are married, friendship between people who are just best friends. We see friendship between people who are distant friends, between Daisy and Mia, and relationships with both Paul and Mia and their fans, of like how that dynamic works. So we explore so many different types of human relationship. It almost feels like that's definitely the theme of the book is human contact and relationships, and how important that is, and what lengths we will go to have and keep those types of relationships. So I think that's partially why I love this book so much. I like that none of the characters are 100% likable. Like, there were aspects of Mia, Paul, Lauren, Arthur, Daisy that I just did not like, which is great, because that's kind of like human. It's very human. This whole book is very human. It was written with humans in mind, not with romance in mind, not with celebrity in mind, but just humanity, like feelings. So I appreciate that about the book. Leading up to the big twist of, I don't know how to say this, so forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, but Kyung. Leading up to the reveal of Kyung, I definitely started feeling, even from the beginning of the book, it's not that I didn't like Kyung, it's that I didn't trust her. At first I thought she was gonna be somebody who back in Korea like had a family and a husband and stuff, who was just cheating on her family at home with Arthur. And I feel like, I mean, with Paul, oops. And I feel like most people probably got that feeling, but towards the middle of the book, as we learn more about Kyung, and as she sends that elusive email of like, I'm not going to be able to see you much in Korea. Korea is big, but it's not that big, so it's not like she couldn't spend like a afternoon having coffee with him. And I was like, wait, doesn't she work for him? Like, she's going to have to see him. Like, that's how that works. So when she sent that email, I was kind of like, okay, something else is happening here. There's something more about Kyung we don't know. And I don't think it's another family back home. Once we got to the book signings in South Korea, I was like, okay, I know what's happening here. She published her own damn novel under his name, and he has no idea because he can't read Korean. I thought maybe it was like her own novel, like maybe she wrote like a different fiction novel, in the sense that like it was just about people and life, kind of like his novels are. So at first I saw her as a villain in my head, because I was like, oh damn girl, you are just trying to be famous and capitalize off of his fame. When the big reveal happens and he's at the interview in South Korea and he has no idea what's going on, it all clicked for me, and I was like, holy shit, she used his story to tell a fiction version of her reality. And it just clicked for me then. I don't know if it clicked for anybody around that point, but it did for me. And I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was totally brilliant, and I wonder how many times that has happened in our history. I wonder how many times like a book like P.S. from Paris was translated into English in a completely different manner to be able to tell a story that somebody wouldn't otherwise be able to tell. I have no doubt that there are people from North Korea who have escaped, who have some stories to tell that don't want to be identified have written anonymously, which makes me kind of want to read any story I can find about North Korea, and whether it's fiction or not, just take it for its word, because how else are you going to get away with writing truths about a dictatorship country where your family and the people you love, maybe even the person you love is, or your child is still there and can be punished for your actions outside of the country. Even though you get free, you still don't have freedom. These are things I never considered before. I'm watching everything happen on the news in politics about the North Korean citizens who are fleeing the country for South Korea, or for really anywhere that will take them, but South Korea being the closest. Like, I mean, literally running through that like peace zone and getting shot at and chased down by North Koreans, like, just to get out of the country, and to find out about his physical, to find out about that specific North Korean's physical status of just having tapeworm and parasites galore and being malnourished and all of those things. Like, I can't imagine. If one of the goals of this book was to get people interested in what's happening in North Korea, it definitely worked for me. I've always been interested in what's happening in North Korea, but now I'm actively like wanting to find literature on it, like whether it's, you know, biographies, newspaper clippings, articles online. Like, I really just want to understand the situation in North Korea more than I ever have before, because this just kind of made it real for me, which is the cool thing about fiction, I think, is that fiction can take concepts that don't seem or feel real, or maybe you're blocking it out. Personally, for me, I think this is what I was doing, is I was actively blocking out interest for this topic, because I'm the type of person where I'm extremely compassionate. I have empathy up the wazoo, and so if I start reading about it, I'm gonna start getting depressed about it, and I think that's an appropriate response to something so horrible, but it also is, you know, during a time when I'm struggling with my mental health, maybe not the best idea. So in little increments, I'm letting myself kind of dive into the topic of North Korea beyond what I've already been taught in school and beyond what I read about on the news. The romance of the novel, we have to address that because it's a romance novel, I thought was awesome. I loved how Mia kind of started off this relationship with Paul. Well, Paul as well. He was part of the agreement that this was just going to be friendship and that this date didn't count, and the whole thing that they followed through with till the end of like, this doesn't count, this doesn't count. To me, the whole aspect of still being in love with your ex, or being in love with an elusive figure of a person like Kyung, and then also trying to kind of subconsciously knowing you need to move on, like this is not healthy, but also not being able to deny that that's what you want, and also trying to move on is so relatable for me. It's basically how my relationship that I am currently in started. I got out of a really, really, really unhealthy relationship that burned really fast and really quickly, and I was the one who got broken up with in that relationship, and so I did not take it well, and separating my emotions from that relationship was really hard. And so going into this relationship where I was like, this person is a good person and I should be with this person, but my feelings are all about the last person that I was with. I don't know if that's good or healthy, is so relatable. And in that situation, which I think both Paul and Mia did really well, and what I did really well in the beginning of this relationship, which is why I think this relationship actually ended up working, is they just were completely honest about it up front. They're like, hey, I don't want to date you because I'm kind of still in love with my ex, or I don't want to date you because I'm still in love with who is actually currently my husband. I don't want to date you because I'm in love with this elusive woman I don't even know if loves me back. I think Marc Levy knows that world all too well, or has observed it quite a bit, because until it happened to me, I had seen it happen to tons of people in my life and never understood it. I was like, why on earth would you date somebody else if you're still in love with an ex, basically? And then it happened to me, and I was like, okay, I get it. Because, and I feel like this was written so well in the book, is there is a point in that situation where your heart is clinging to something old, but your consciousness knows you need to move on to something healthy and good. And when it's handed to you in the middle of feeling bad about the thing that was bad for you, it's kind of hard to navigate. It really is. And I feel like Mia and Paul went through that struggle, very true to how at least I went through that struggle. And that seemed very real and human to me, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved how honest this book is. I loved how true to real life this book was. With the exception, of course, of I'm not a famous writer or a famous like actress. I mean, those are the main points that I wanted to talk about. I've already talked about this book forever. I obviously missed making these videos. I obviously missed talking about books. So I'm really excited to finally consistently post. I think what I'm gonna do is make Saturdays my posting day. So I will post book reviews ideally every Saturday from here on out. I will try to give people a heads up on what I'm going to be reviewing. So if you do want to read along, then you can. Next Saturday, I will be reviewing On Writing by Stephen King. I'm a little less than halfway through right now, and I am loving it. Thank you to those who on my Instagram and on my YouTube channel expressed excitement that I was coming back and making YouTube videos. I'm excited to be back. I know that I know that compared to a lot of book reviewers on YouTube, I don't have a whole lot of subscribers, but I super appreciate and cherish every single one of you, because I need this type of community. I need this just as much as I'm sure that the people watching my videos need it. And it's not, the system, the process does not work without you guys. So thank you for being there, honestly, for my mental health. Like, this is good for my mental health. And I really, really, really do appreciate that. I love that with my small community, it sounds like, and it seems like it's gonna be a good community. So please subscribe if you find talking about books interesting. For those who are new, I try to branch out to all genres as much as possible. So I will be bouncing around from like mystery thriller to romance to biography to self-improvement. So if you have suggestions, please leave them in the comments. I will try to get to them. My goal is to read one book at least every week of this year and review at least one book every week this year. So until next Saturday, I will definitely see you later. Bye.